Welcome to the Supervision of Peer Workforce Conference. My name is Constance and I'm with Cher. This session is entitled The Friendship Squad from Idea to Manifestation, and our presenter is Dan Frey. Dan Frey is a person with lived experience who is an advocate and educator within the mental health community. He runs City Voices, which is cityvoicesonline.org, and has a number of other projects, including the Friendship Squad, designed to help his peers to be more engaged with life. A little housekeeping: all of the sessions of today's events are being recorded, and all of today's presentations will be available for everyone at a later time. If you have any questions or technical problems, please send me a note directly in the chat. And if you would, please mute yourself now and remain muted unless you've been called upon to speak. At the end of the presentation, we ask that you complete a short evaluation of today's talk, and I've already shared the link in the chat. And I'm going to begin recording, and I'm very happy to introduce Dan Frey. Thank you, Dan. Take it away.
Okay, so one thing, Constant, I can't really see everybody who's raising their hand or whatever. Can you unmute people or ask them to unmute if they, because we have a Q&A section of the presentation toward the end of the presentation, but I feel if the Holy Spirit moves you to speak, and you're a direct connection, to the divine. Anyway, if the Spirit moves you to speak and you can't wait till the end to reach that Q&A, then we can give you a chance to speak, but I can't see them, Constance, so can you handle that?
I can.
Okay,
yes.
Let's begin then. The journey of the Friendship Squad. All right. The idea, well, this was about a year before the COVID happened, and COVID was starting, and I thought, wow, here we are in isolation, in quarantine, and what do I depend on for social connection? And that was my friends. And then I also realized in my travels and doing working with the mental health community for as long as I have, is that there are people not as fortunate as I am, I'm also a person with lived experience in mental health, but there are other people with lived experience who are more isolated and could really use a friend, a supportive. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
So if anyone, as Dan mentioned, if anyone feels moved to speak, if you would just unmute yourself, you all have the power now. So
I just put my dog in quarantine, and I'm his friend, so there you go. Anyway, our peers, some of them don't have friend connections, and the idea was to have a project where volunteer friends could build friendships with their peers who really really need a friend, especially during the quarantine. So friendship. What happens when people like each other and want to support each other through life? Friendship. Friendship is not case management, and it's not even peer support. It's not even peer support. I mean, there are elements of peer support, mutuality, reciprocity, equality, sharing of experience, but there's no focus on everyone's equal, and there's no focus on outcome. There is a little bit of inequality even with peer support, because the peer is getting paid to engage with the peers in the program. So there's a little bit of like inequality there, because someone's like a staff member who, you know, people turn to for guidance, and that's like an imbalance. But in this project, there's more of a level playing field, I think, and you know, because it's just friendship. Imagine all the friends you've had growing up. Did you feel like equal to them? Did some of them feel like, were they like, there's a difference between friends and mentors, friends and peer specialists. Friends are like, well, friends are friends. It's so hard to put a definition on friendship, but let's proceed. Maybe we'll get there. What needs to be done to form a friendship squad? Now, it would be great if this presentation inspired you to create a friendship squad, or any idea that you have to help your community to make it manifest, to bring it to life. And this presentation will share with you like how I brought to life the friendship squad, and maybe and I'm open, and at the end there'll be my contact information, and you can contact me if you have an idea or something and you want some advice or support. I would love to do that for you. And maybe you want to get involved with the friendship squad, because it's all over the country. There are people from New York. I started in New York, but there are friends in Canada, in Idaho, in California, you know, because the only barrier is really language and technology. And if you have a language that's compatible and technology that works, you know, friendships can be formed from any state, anywhere, even, you know, even outside the country. So anyway, what needs to be done to form a friendship squad? You got to recruit peers to volunteer as friendship initiators. So I tapped into my network through social media, and also the people I knew, to get people I trusted to start volunteering. And if it was someone I didn't know who like was interested through social media or whatever, they would go through an interview process, and I would interview applicants for like an hour and ask them all kinds of questions that dealt with their experience with friendships of their own, how they would deal with hypothetical situations, testing, like just to get a feel of where their heart is, their level of compassion and stuff like that. So and I can share all that with you if you contact me, because it's all like in a document I use for with the interview questions and stuff. You also have to, well, I created applications for the volunteers and friends, web-based applications that I could just put a link, and then they could click it and just fill out a form. And then that form comes back to my email and I can review their application. This was an application for the volunteers as well as for the friends who the volunteers are going to engage in friendships with. And then once you have the applications, and then you want to match people based on their interests, because there's some questions about your hobbies and your experiences and your gender identification and all these questions. And based on those answers, you play matchmaker basically. And you want to find people that have something in common. Is helpful, I think, to building friendships. So then once the friendships have started, you want to be there for the volunteers and for the friends. So because you want there's going to be like bumps in the road a lot of times with the friendships, as the friendships start in the beginning, as the roots are being planted of the friendship, and you want those roots to really go deep. But sometimes there's disagreements, and you want them to be right away handled in a positive and communicative way. So there's troubleshooting. Like I'm the troubleshooter. Okay, so what are the challenges? Finding peers who are willing to volunteer, as well as peers who are willing to receive a friend. So I use social media for a lot. Like these volunteers and that I interviewed, they not only volunteered for the friendship squad, they became like, some of them became my personal friends. And And that's just how it works sometimes. And so, but it started off slow because initially I went to like nonprofits and try to get them interested in the Friendship Squad to see if their peer specialists would be willing to volunteer. But that was shot down, and they were extremely worried about something called liability. Even though this is a low risk, low budget, low everything kind of project, they were worried about, even, their clients' feelings being hurt, things like that. And that happens sometimes in friendships, right? You've had a friend who hurts your feelings, but sometimes it makes the relationship grow even stronger together when you discuss, like, there's something you said that affected me, and I want you to know about it. And then, hopefully the other person is apologetic and says, well, I didn't realize. And then there's a growing closer, hopefully. So, arguments and disagreements, and sometimes even things like non-communication, like someone's too busy to do the 1 hour minimum per week of the Friendship Squad. And I try to make sure that that person at least lets their friend know that they won't be available, they can't be available. But receiving, now the volunteers was one thing, but getting the people who wanted friends was an even bigger challenge. But I created flyers, I used social media again, I talked to people, I networked in clubhouses and also online, mostly online because of COVID, right? And and then, eventually the friends came forward and they filled out their applications, and we got this thing off the ground. Another challenge is retaining volunteers and friends. There's a 6-month commitment that I ask from the volunteers to build these friendships. And ideally, the friendships last well beyond the 6 months. And some have, because we've been doing this for about a year now. But retaining volunteers, some volunteers came in and just dropped it, and we're doing things that I didn't like, which was ghosting their friends, or simply like finding reason to be upset with the project. And I'll get into those challenges a little bit later. And the friends drop out. People have dropped out. I've had like 40 people in and out of the project, with only 20, like half of them, sticking to it. Getting closure from volunteers and friends who decide to leave. Like I said, like half of everybody left for their own reasons. Maybe some were too busy or whatever, or had disagreements that we'll get into later on. But getting closure, at like a closure interview with me would be nice from the volunteers, or getting closure from the friends, explaining why they can't be a part of the project anymore, and maybe getting the friends to communicate that to the volunteers, and the volunteers communicating their reasons for leaving to the friends. That's been a challenge to have happen. People just tend to drop out, and that's it. Getting volunteers and friends to sign agreements and to commit to those agreements, big challenge. And one of the things in the agreement is to provide closure and not to ghost people. Ghosting means like just not texting or emailing or calling, and just being a ghost. So these are some of the challenges, but I think the rewards are even better. They make all these challenges much worthwhile. Okay, so here's the anecdote of one particular challenge, and I'm using artificial names, of course. So here we go. William's friendship was going through some challenges, and he threatened to leave the squad. His friend at one point wanted to see him in person, which he did not want to do, and he was glad we had a no in-person meeting policy. So we have a no in-person meeting policy. It's all virtual, Zoom, and telephone. So he didn't want to meet the person in person, so he was glad we had that policy. But when the friendship was going well again, the policy became a problem, and he wanted to meet with his friend, and so he again threatened to leave the squad. And he had completed 6 months with us. I asked him what will happen to the friendship if he left the squad, and he said, nothing, we are friends. And so this warmed my heart, even though I didn't want to lose him as a valued volunteer who consistently attended our meetings and kept in close contact with his friend. But after a final disagreement with me about another project policy that was in the agreement, William left the squad. So these things have people come and go. Here's an anecdote of another challenge. Connie's friend Willetta was homeless and addicted to alcohol. Connie and Willetta bonded quickly since Connie understood homelessness, addiction, and mental health challenges personally, and they were able to communicate in both English and Spanish. Willetta soon found a safe place to stay and a part-time job through a clubhouse, but she struggled with addiction and a bad temper. Even when she refused to talk to others, she always spoke with Connie. After an incident at the clubhouse where she had a violent outburst, Willetta disappeared with no word to anyone, not even Connie. So sometimes people leave like this, and we can only pray and keep a person in our thoughts when they're not doing well and disappear from our lives. Here's another challenge. Carlos, how are we on time? We have till 12:30. We have till 1 o'clock your time? Okay, yes. So that's 2, 3, that's 4 o'clock. Oh, we're good, we're good. Okay, so Carlos was building a friendship with Jenny. Carlos was gay and Jenny was transgender and transitioning. Things were going very well. However, Jenny had a boyfriend who opposed her transition, and they often fought verbally. He even opposed Jenny's friendship with Carlos, so Jenny would meet with Carlos whenever her boyfriend was not around. Still, regardless of her boyfriend's opposition, Jenny was determined to transition. Eventually, Jenny stopped returning Carlos's calls and texts. I encouraged Carlos to keep trying, but after a few months, we just kept Jenny in our thoughts and prayers. So again, sometimes people we care about disappear without giving reason, no closure, no closure, and we can only hope and pray for them.
Dan, I was wrong. Excuse me for a second. It's we have until 3:30 your time, 12:30
okay.
Pacific time.
No problem. I think we're still doing well. So here's an anecdote of a triumph. Stacy built a friendship with Shelley, and it is going great. They have been with the project for over 6 months and every week look forward to speaking to each other. Stacy has said to me that she has found a long lost friend in Shelley. Here's another triumph. Kate is building a friendship with Ginger. Although Ginger prefers not to talk on the phone, they text each other multiple times per day, and they are finding support in one another. So the volunteers, after about 6 months, we put a survey together to gauge how they feel about certain things about the project. And I'd like to share some of those responses with you. So here's a survey question. Do you plan to stay in touch with the Friendship Squad friend after your 6 months with TFS is completed? And most of them, 8 people were surveyed. So we had like 10 volunteers or 9 volunteers, and most of them participated. So about 8 people, and 6 of them said yes. 1 said unsure, and 1 said no, which is a little troubling. And that's, but let's look at these other questions, how they answered them. Would you recommend the experience of volunteering for the Friendship Squad to someone else? And 7 people said yes, and 1 person said no. And this was an anonymous survey. So there's 1 person who's a little disgruntled. Then we asked, how do you, now there were a lot more questions. I'm just sharing the ones that I think are like valuable, the most valuable. How do you feel about the quality of the support you and your friend provide each other? 4 out of 8 said pleased. 2 out of 8 said even more than pleased, delighted. So that's 6 out of 8 pleased or delighted. That's pretty good. And one person said mixed, and one person said mostly dissatisfied. You know, we tried. And I do believe that the person who was dissatisfied and not happy with in both questions, I think that person has probably, since it was anonymous, I'm only guessing that they since have left, but they were with the, I believe they were with the squad for at least 6 months, which is a victory in and of itself. How do you feel about the frequency of your contact with your friend? So 3 people said mixed. Now that's troubling to me because there was a question that I did not include here, which said that, which indicated that people were like on average talking to their friends for at least 1 hour per week. But maybe that's not enough, or I don't know. Or maybe they lied and they said 1 hour per week, but they were really doing less and couldn't. It's hard to know, you know, surveys, you can't get the truth all the time, but you can get a sense of the truth. So, but 3 people were pleased and 1 person was delighted. So that's 50%. That ain't bad. So, but my sense is that they want more frequency of contact, but I'm not clear whether the frequency is they want more time or less time. I would guess more time, and I have to address that barrier about why isn't that happening? Why aren't they getting the time that they want with each other? So, but this was unanimous. Would you recommend to someone in need of a friend to get involved with the friendship squad? So even the people who were like mixed or dissatisfied, they all said, all of them said, yes, they would recommend someone. And that's beautiful. So here's a little song I'd like to play for you all. I love that song. All right, now it's time for Q&A. Anyone got any questions? Lori Fisher.
Hey, thanks. So you talked about an agreement that the volunteers sign, and also the person that is going to, they're going to be serving. Would you share that information with us, or
at
least tell us what information is on that? I'm kind of thinking about boundaries, and if things go too far, you know, like they get off the agreement that was agreed about, and then they have some really bad boundaries, and I can see things going sour real quick. So I was just wondering how you set that up.
Well, you know, some things gone sour, but you know, we had 40 people in and out of the project, and 20 people have remained, which means like 7 friends and 7 volunteers and 13 friends, because some volunteers take on 2 friends. Mm-hmm. And they've been, most of them have been there at least 6 months and going on to infinity or a lifetime, hopefully. So yeah, sometimes it goes sour, but sometimes it goes sweet and sour. Right. Yeah. And the agreements are just so that, you know, commit to 1 hour per week,
Mhm.
commit to 6 months. Any problems, come to me. Try to be, we also have a monthly volunteer meeting where all the volunteers are there on Zoom supporting each other. So come to those meetings, and so forth and so on.
Nice.
And I would be happy to share the full agreement with you. I think, Constance, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can share some documents that you could put somewhere that people can have easy access to.
Absolutely, yes.
Great.
Okay, so I'll put the agreement, the interview questions, and this PowerPoint as a PDF. And you
Great.
can have access to that.
And
Thank
you can
you.
put that in the chat if you'd like, Dan.
Oh, that might be
Okay,
a little challenging right now.
no worries, we'll do it.
Okay. Any other questions? Reverend Dr. Philip Williams Cook.
I was wondering if I can just real briefly share my experience with the Friendship Squad so far. Hopefully it'll take no more than a minute.
Can I introduce you?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay, Philip is actually a volunteer friend with the Friendship Squad. He does many other things, wears many other hats, but he's going to talk to you as a volunteer in his experience.
My experience has unfortunately been a little rocky just because, well, I'm on my third friend and we just connected for the first time, and we're going to connect again later today. My first friend, I mean, it started out really, really great. Unfortunately, there was some issues that she was going through, and it kind of ended abruptly. I send a couple of voice messages and email, just like, I'm still here for you if you need support, and I haven't heard back from her. And then the second person, it went well at first, and I don't know, it just it hit a snag too. So it's going to happen, unfortunately, but I think it's a really good program, and I'm glad that Dan didn't give up. It's not giving up on this. The Friendship Squad has great potential, and like anything that's is getting started, it's going to take a little bit of time and patience, to get off the ground and be successful. And there's already been successes so far.
Let me ask you, Phil, what did you learn about yourself as a participant?
Well, first of all, to not get too bogged down and busy, to forget, to connect with the friend every week. Because I mean, unfortunately, that happened to me from time to time, and it could easily cause a disconnect. So if you're committed to doing this, try to be committed to doing this. I know for me, I have to start writing things down so I remember, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that.
Was there anything in the interactions you had with your friends that taught you something about yourself?
Yes, patience. That I have more patience than sometimes I actually want. Because people tend to want to ramble and not, kind of let you, the volunteer chime in. So I think maybe I'm a little bit too patient. I don't know. And like, where do you draw the line that, for you to chime in?
Mm-hmm. Did you learn about how to communicate in a way that like, did you work it out with that person to allow yourself to?
Yes,
be-
I have, but it's still a work in progress. Same thing with, you know, in facilitating a group, all that's still a work in progress. I'm getting better, but you know, I could get even better.
So it's enhancing your people skills.
Right. It's kind of like on the job training.
Very cool.
At least that's how I see it.
Very cool. Thank you, Philip. The final slide is how to get in touch. And I could put some of this in the chat too, or I could just leave this slide on all for the next half hour. I don't know. But I'll leave it on for the next 5 minutes before I shut down my share. But are there any other questions? If the spirit moves you, and the spirit being a direct communication with the universe through your mouth to me, please, we'd love to hear it. Now, oh, and let me explain something else. I'm not, I don't, I'm just a person receiving a disability benefit who wants to help their community. This is not, I'm not part of like a big nonprofit. I'm just an individual, and individuals everywhere can do the same thing, whether it be a friendship project or any other project. And you just have to show up and commit. That's basically the secret. You show up, you commit, you keep doing it, even when it gets challenging. Just like, and the same, and Philip is embodying those same ideals because he's keeping at it with his friends, even though, they talk too much or whatever. He's working it out with them, and he's giving them a chance, and he's giving himself a chance. And that's what it's all about. And it's so worthwhile. It is so worthwhile. All right, I'm going to stop the share. And I'm going to put my email.
I think, oh yeah, I think Constance already did.
Oh, there it is.
I just did.
All right, and if it's okay, I mean, I run a spirituality group on Zoom every Saturday, and sometimes we lapse into silence for like minutes and minutes. And if we do that here too, that's pretty cool. I know people watching on YouTube would love just watching silence. It's my favorite thing to do. In fact, I watch blank screens. I just stare at a blank screen for an hour. It's really very helpful to me. But in the during this silence, and I'm sorry I'm breaking it, I'm breaking the cardinal rule of breaking silence. I'm going to try to find some files to put in the chat, so it's not so difficult for Constance to take my files and put them who knows where.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I believe this is the PowerPoint in PDF. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do the agreement. Okay. And let's see, the PowerPoint and the agreement. And there was one other thing. What was that? Anyone know? Anybody? Anybody at all? Anybody? Okay. It's up to me then. I will browse the files. Oh yeah, the interview questions. Okay, there we go. Not bad for someone on heavy antipsychotics. So I say we do 5 minutes of silence. And if after 5 minutes there's still silence, we could end early maybe. What do you think, Constance?
Sounds
Okay.
whatever is good for you.
Oh, Philip, we have you here. We might as well pick your brain a little bit more about your experiences with the Friendship Squad.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah. I would say,
let me ask you some questions, okay?
Okay.
All right. The first question is, have you ever participated in one of those volunteer Zoom meetings, and how did that go?
I have 2 or 3 times. And I thought they were very helpful. For the main reason is, I get to see, all the volunteers. Number 2, some of the experiences that we shared with one another about, our friend, we can all relate to, maybe not every single week, but we can relate to it. And then we get, feedback from one another.
Let me ask you this. Did you receive enough support from me? And if not, like, what can I do to improve the job that I've been doing, like managing this project?
I think I receive very good support from you. We do it multiple ways, either through a phone call or a text. So, I mean, for me, it's adequate.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add? I'm going to be meditating on a specific question. Does anyone else have questions for Philip about his participation in the squad?
I have a question.
Okay, I'm listening.
So on a typical, if it's an hour weekly, would you just decide what to do? Go have a cup of coffee or?
Oh, no. As Dan explained earlier, this is all done either by on telephone. So there's no like in-person meetups. That's part of the volunteer agreement. So it's all done by phone. And for me also, could be text. I text sometimes. Just let if I haven't heard from my friend for a couple of days or a week, I would like kind of check in and stuff. Okay, you want to meet next week? Just to kind of keep the line of communication open. And if the person uses Facebook, I do that too, because sometimes I may not be able to meet with my friend. My friend may not be able to meet with me. But the important thing is to kind of we let each other know that keep the lines of communication open.
Thank you.
Dan, is that accurate?
Well, yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah, okay. I also, when we do the monthly meetings, I like the fact that, Dan doesn't refer himself as a supervisor, because oftentimes I've been in, jobs and employment, stuff like that, where, right off the bat, well, I'm going to be your supervisor. And this is how, it's not really person centered. So I love that aspect of, Dan's personality when it comes to his work and just being a human being in general.
And we're just trying to be human beings here. We're not, we although we were all, been brought up through the mental health and addiction systems, so it gets ingrained in us to use the clinical language. So we make an effort not to use that language when we're talking about friends and building friendships and peers and some of the the experiences, like instead of calling it psychosis, we'll call it like a journey through rough seas or an extreme state or whatever, an altered state, or just having a hard time, just yeah.
And that goes to, to me, the use of language. I think a good friend of mine told me that, if we want to see change, we have to be the change. And I believe part of it is like the words that we speak, because, they have the power to either lift us up or tear us down.
I think Gandhi once said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Lori has her hand up.
Okay.
Are the majority of the visits, are they done like by Zoom or on the phone, or are there some people that do it in person? Are they mostly a distance away?
I wouldn't use the word visit. I would use a phone call or reconnect or something like that. Like when you call a friend, it's not like, oh, I'm visiting, I'm doing a visit with my friend. If it's in person, I can understand, but
Yeah.
since this is all,
It's all
virtual.
Okay, it's not in person at all. It's all just Zoom or phone calls. Is that right?
But the interesting thing is that sometimes friends and volunteers can see each other through a shared Zoom when we have, because we did holidays, we did Christmas, we did another holiday, I forget which one. And sometimes we also have like in-person events in New York City. So they're called PIPs, peers in person. And of course, friends and volunteers are invited to that. So that's an in-person opportunity to meet. But, we don't want, friends and volunteers going to their apartments together. We want public spaces and that sort of thing.
Great.
But since it's a countrywide, with our 10 volunteers, it's countrywide, like Philip has had a friend from Texas. And so, it's impossible to meet in person, but it is possible to have like a Zoom meeting where you could see each other's faces.
Okay, thanks.
Dan, I was wondering if the City Voices website got put up.
No, but I can certainly do that.
And there's also a City Voices Facebook page as well.
I can certainly do that.
All right.
Okay, let's see.
I mean, to get more information about this, the Friendship Squad.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay, I got you, Phil. Like on the City Voices website, there's a section for the Friendship Squad, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So I'll share that link. Thank you, Phil. And the other thing was the Facebook page, right?
Yeah, because you shared information about Peers in Person on there and on there.
Right, right. Good call, Phil. Phil, if you weren't here, this presentation would just gone to pot.
Oh no! Oh no! He's. There've been some good questions in the group. It may not be from a lot of people, but we appreciate any question that comes this our way.
So if you're on Facebook, please friend us, friend me, friend Philip. If you're ever in New York City, come to a PIP. Peers in Person. So why don't I talk to you about other things that we do besides the Friendship Squad? So there's Peers in Person, which is in-person gathering of peers and family members and allies and stuff. And we go to during the warm weather, we go to parks like Central Park and Bryant Park. And during the cold weather, we go to museums and coffee shops. And the idea is just so people can learn to be more comfortable in the general public, and just doing our thing and feeling the support of fellow peers. And in future PIPs, we're going to have people engaging us in movement exercises and stretching and qigong and tai chi and yoga and all this stuff in public parks. It's going to be fantastic. One woman is like a personal trainer, and she's going to bring music and engage us in not too challenging, because she's really buff. This woman is very fit. Hopefully she won't destroy us. And I told her, please don't. And she found that pretty funny. And she was like, no, of course not. So that's PIP. What else are we doing?
Peer Workers United.
Oh my God, Phil, you should talk about that.
Well, I don't remember when it was founded, so I can't say that, but I joined towards the end of November 2020 as a co-facilitator. And so what Peer Workers United is a support group for peer professionals and prospective peer professionals. And we have sometimes we come in with group topics, and now we've been having guest speakers. We had a good friend of mine's, Chaplain Sandra Mitchell. She spoke. We had Dan Carney, who is retired, but he does work with the New York City Medicaid managed care system. And on May 16th, we're going to have Patrice Peterson, who is a peer program director with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Office of Consumer Affairs. She runs a program there. So she's going to be speaking on May 16th, and we work together as members of the New York City Peer Workforce Coalition. So, we got that going now, guest speakers. And when we don't have guest speakers, we have a topic in mind, but sometimes when attendees speak, it kind of moves in a different direction. Like the last time we actually had a big question and answer session. I train or help train two peer two peers to become co-moderators. Their names are Michelle Dyson, she's a peer specialist out of Washington, D.C., and Tishna Lopez from, she wears a lot of different hats in the peer movement. So those are the three co-facilitators, me, Michelle, and Tishna, and we all, the group meets on the first Monday and first and third Monday of every month from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time.
And the link is in the chat for our group schedule and the Zoom link, because it's the same Zoom link every time we meet. And also it's for anywhere in the country. You could be from anywhere. We've even had people outside the country, right, Phil?
Right, right. We had a regular from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And we also had the City Voice, sorry, there's a Facebook page for Peer Workers United as well, where, you know, we post announcements of, you know, when we're meeting, but also just resources too.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in the chat as well. The Facebook group for Peer Workers United, in case, you know, and Facebook is for like middle-aged and older people who engage in social media. So that gives you a sense of how old we are. Okay, so that's there now.
So could you, I guess, could you tell us like the history of Peer Workers United, how it got started?
Okay, before COVID, like maybe 2 years before COVID, 2018, 2019, we started doing it in person, you know, at a place called Community Access, which is a big nonprofit in New York City. And you know, it was fine. It was great. We advertised it a little bit. We averaged like 10 to 15 people per group, and they came up, they had a little water from the water tank, and then we engaged in a conversation, all topics, peer specialists, the ups, the downs, and also our personal lives, because it's support for our personal lives too, and support for the work that we do, that you do. Because technically I'm not a peer specialist, Phil. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. I always assumed, but
yeah.
Wow.
I'm more of like an advocate, you know. So anyway, is there any other project that we haven't mentioned yet? We have 7 minutes. Let me see.
What about writing for City Voices?
Oh, okay. Yeah, people can write for City Voices. City Voices used to be like a physical newspaper for the mental health community. Now it's like all online, and it's mental health and substance use. And we have a website and social media, as you could tell from the chat. And anyone, you know, who has, we like personal stories, people with lived experience sharing their stories. That's a big part of our website content. But anyone can write, and we have a submit an article link that I will put in the chat. If anyone has an article idea that they'd like to write about. Thank you, Phil. Also, I wanted to bring up Cracking Up, a night of mental health comedy. We do like a virtual night of mental health comedy called
yeah and the person that sort of helped us got that out the ground, his name is David Grenier, founder of Stand Up to Mental Health. He's actually,
yeah, let's plug his thing. I'll find his website.
Yeah, he's from Canada, and he brought, you know, Stand Up to Mental Health to United States, and I got familiar with Stand Up to Mental Health through the New York Association. I'm trying to see what NAP is. New York Association of Psychiatric Rehabilitation Services. Yeah, NIAPS. They have a conference every year, and that's one of the Stand Up to Mental Health Comedy Night is one of the highlights of this conference, which is held every September in upstate New York.
That's right, Phil.
And on April 25th, a couple of days ago, which I celebrated my birthday, I ended that, my birthday celebration with, helping out with cracking up in a good way, comedy night.
Yeah, Phil was doing technical support and like doing everything to make sure the Zoom thing happened. And we had like 160 people who attended, which was like fantastic.
And all the comedians were absolutely fantastic. Some of them are actual fellow members of Fountain House.
Let's see, is there any other project we haven't mentioned yet? I don't think there is, Phil.
I don't think there is. I think we mentioned them all.
But let's talk about what we'd like to do in the future. Now, you all know that stigma is a form of discrimination, right? But do you realize there's a form of stigma that's so insidious and powerful that seldom gets talked about, which is self-stigma, what we do to ourselves. So in the future, City Voices would like to create groups that help our peers to get over self-stigma somehow. And by participating in PIP and Cracking Up and the Friendship Squad, those are all opportunities to take risks in life, because there's no payoff without a risk, like even an emotional, spiritual payoff. And we need to encourage our peers to take these kinds of risks in life so that they can evolve and just lead more, in my opinion, like richer lives, rather than feel like they're trapped, in their minds. And so that's an important thing too.
And a neat thing to me about these groups is that, if you're, doing this for the first time, you won't be without support. You will have support along the way, either with, fellow members of these groups, or, you can, your own current support network, but you will always have some support, just in case you're thinking about it. It's like, I'm not sure, I don't know. You will have support.
Like through all of our activities, we want to create that support, build that community, that sense of community, a sense that you can call someone for support when you need support and feel like you're not alone, feel like you're part of something. That's something we want to generate, we want to engender.
And this is, I think it's a very good model to, to show those who don't know about, the peer support model. We can be an example of, of hope and success, that is person-centered, because as I mentioned in my presentation this morning or this afternoon, that, in the clinical model, they're not aligned with peer support values. And, through groups like, what Dan talked about and I talked about in this session, hopefully more and more people, peers and non-peers alike would see, hey, peer support works. Like, we can recover, and here's the evidence to prove that.
So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Constance. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this wee little group. I'm so happy I did this, and I'm so happy you're here with me. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. So if everyone, a ton of links are in the chat, as well as the evaluation, totally optional. If you feel like completing it, it would be wonderful. And the next session, I will close the room and put the schedule up.